Welcome to the University of Nottingham podcast.
Talking about the Democracy and Governance Task Force that you headed up, that was obviously before, that was when you were a backbencher, so a lot of the conclusions and findings aren't cemented official Conservative policy, are they?
That's right. We were actually asked to advise Cameron and the Shadow Cabinet. Quite a lot of other policy reports of what sort and other have been produced. And David turned up to launch one or two of them. His sympathies are with what we were advocating, but he hasn't decided yet what he's going to do on this subject. Now I've moved into the Shadow Cabinet, I shall have the advantage of being able to participate in the discussions of what we do on this subject, and he knows what my opinions are likely to be, having had the chance of reading them.
What prompted the need to do this? I mean, it's obviously something you felt very strongly about.
Yeah, but David's, I mean, I only took it on because David was obviously interested as well. He asked me to do it because he felt there was a growing mood that there should be parliamentary reform. Parliament wasn't commanding public respect anymore. Like me, he was worried about the decreasing turnout that took place in recent elections, and he didn't fancy very much the control freak type of government we had, if you don't mind me using the partisan language to describe it. Now, of course, the difficulty is there's a big gulf between a keen new leader of the opposition having those instincts and wanting to be a good parliamentarian, and all the pressures he'll be under when he takes over. So I shall now take my part in trying to press us to do some of this at a fairly early stage, because I think not only make us more accountable, the argument I use to colleagues contemplating going into the executive is you'll make fewer mistakes if you have to clear your policy with colleagues and if you're properly accountable to Parliament.
Does it point to a loss of confidence, a loss of trust even in politicians by the public over the years?
It's a chicken and egg thing, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, the public certainly have much less trust. But, I mean, days gone by, politicians were held in a certain amount of awe and respect. One reason people didn't write to MPs when I first got elected was they thought it was rather presumptuous to write to such an important chap as the MP about minor matters. Now, I'm glad that's gone. I mean, that's all part of the old age of deference, which as someone who was a student in the 60s, I think it was much overdue to be swept away. We've now gone to the other extreme, where at this extreme, a lot of the public just think the politicians are all scoundrels, half of them are crooks, they're only in it for their own ends. There isn't much difference between any of them, and it doesn't make any difference what goes on in Parliament, and it doesn't make much difference whether you participate or not. Now, there are shades of opinion towards that, but there have been recent times when I find expressions of contempt for politicians and indirectly for the political process are beginning to be expressed, and which we've got to get rid of.
We've seen in America recently a very strong reaction from the public becoming politically engaged, even if only for a short period there. Are we going to see those scenes in the UK ever, or do you think...
Well, we've had them slightly. I think occasionally you get an inspirational orator, usually somebody who's a distinctive personality who arouses the public out of their scepticism or their cynicism and persuades them that a whole new dawn has arrived. Tony Blair really did that in 1997. That's why I say he had such a big parliamentary majority, but such a big public following. He could have done anything when he first took office. If he'd said we should behead all red-headed men, it would have been carried out. About 20% of the public would have objected, but not most. And the trouble was he didn't know what he wanted to do. Barack Obama has brought people into politics and inspired them from a class of people, including large numbers of the young in America, who were equally turned off during the Bush years, who believe a new dawn has arrived and a new style of politics. It's all going to matter and be more idealistic again. Now, I hope he succeeds. I think the danger is expectations are dramatically high. Obama, I hope, is going to be a good president. I would have voted for him myself. But he can't deliver to these expectations. He's going to disappoint the more naive and idealistic. What we don't want, and I think this did happen, there's one reason why we've had troubles the last 10 years, the reaction to Blair amongst the non-political who had followed him was he raised their hopes and then they dashed them again. And if they finally found they'd had enough of him, they were more disillusioned than they had been before.
Perception seems to be more important than policy and substance, and that's sort of a trend with the media that's developed.
Yeah, I think the media share the blame with the politicians as well. And I don't denounce the media as much as some of my colleagues, but it's indisputable that we now have a highly competitive media, financially in great troubles at the moment, few powerful proprietors, and a tremendous agenda to get quick circulation or quick viewing figures. It has produced the 24-hour day, 7 days a week campaigning, and it's raised the hysteria and frenzy about everything to new heights. We don't have problems, we only have crises now, and they all require instant solution, and that gets very difficult. Allied with the celebrity culture, so that the only people the media want to hear or talk about are Gordon Brown or David Cameron, whoever the party leaders are of the day, has slightly dumbed down politics, and of course that in the end tends to make people more disillusioned. Now, the public as a whole, are intelligently interested, or can be, if you stop dumbing it down and can raise it above this kind of level where some newspapers would never report a policy debate about anything. All they want to hear from MPs is sexual scandal or financial fiddling of the expenses. And the average MP is doomed only to be able to get celebrity if they fall into one or other of those two traps.
You are one of the longest-serving MPs in the country.
I try and disguise it from my younger constituents who weren't born when I started. George Osborne was not born when I first became an MP.
Oh, that puts it into perspective. How do you keep? What's your motivation? I mean, what's
political bug? I got keen on politics when I was very young. Keen on following it. I mean, being pompous, I'm interested in the better governance of the country. It's important compared to a lot of other jobs. So you are dealing with big issues of war and peace, full employment or recession and so on. And you join it because you think you can make a difference. And then I have to admit that the other things happen to me. I've always enjoyed the process. I mean, we, alas, do not have smoke-filled rooms anymore, but I enjoy being in Parliament. I like speaking in Parliament. I like living in a political village, and I like to feel close to events. I was enjoying being a maverick, cavalier backbencher, joining in when I wanted to, rebelling sometimes, giving my own views. Because of the historic events taking place now, one too difficult to persuade me to stop messing about and start taking a part in organised politics again.
How does it feel to be back on the front line again? Particularly,
I'm enjoying it, actually. I have not yet decided that I've gone completely mad taking it on. I keep saying I must get together with Peter Mandelson and ask him whether he thinks we've taken leave of our senses, because he was very happy in Brussels and a very good commissioner, and I was very happy as a backbencher. But I think it is events that have brought us back in, and that you've been bitten by the bug. It's irresistible when you're given a chance to participate again. What do you feel like being on the front bench? It seems terribly familiar. I spent the majority of my time in Parliament on the front bench, and I shall soon start getting nostalgic for that rather nice long interval. I was a freelance backbencher.
But of course, no overnights anymore.
No, it's all been tidied up. It's been modernised. It's said to be modernised in the interests of family life. I'm not sure that is true. I think it's been modernised because it suits the convenience of the government to have the thing more organised, to have it sit less often, to make sure it doesn't talk for too long about anything controversial or difficult, and to make them all go home in the evening so the ministers can get on with their work. And I'm not sure, I will never bring back all-night sittings. I mean, public always regard them as mad, and the present members of Parliament would not go back to that. But you've got to have some, it means you do have to address why can't Parliament control what it debates? And why is everything timetabled so that you hardly ever talk about the big controversial issues? Why doesn't Parliament decide on the subjects and debate them when they can still be influenced? And why are the select committee chairmen all appointed by the whips? Wouldn't the select committees be even more effective if they were elected? The chairman was elected by a secret ballot of all the MPs, because that's when you get all the strong-willed people actually admired by their colleagues put into the select committee chairmanships.